News of the world news now. Hack attack! Today, Andy, is the final edition of the News of the World, the notorious British Sunday tabloid paper. It will be missed by people who like to knowingly or otherwise have their faith in humanity drained out of them every Sunday. Otherwise, it will not be missed at all. If you managed to avoid this story over the past week, Buglers, then congratulations, but you might want to put some plastic clothing over your soul now before you hear about it, because you're about to wade into some depressingly murky waters. The 168-year-old... miraculously, mysteriously long-running tabloid is accused of hacking into phones of not just celebrities, which was clearly illegal, but nothing that seemed to get anyone's anger up that far. But then it emerged that they were also hacking the phones of politicians, murder victims, terror victims, dead British soldiers and their families. Police have identified 4,000 possible targets. With missing murder victims' phones, they were even reportedly checking their messages and deleting some of them to allow space for more to be left, thus giving their family false hope that they were still alive. This is the moment, Buglers, where you really need to take your soul down to a car wash to have it industrially sprayed down.
I guess the question is, John, when you hear about all these stories and the hacking into the voicemails of bereaved families, what were they trying to find? What scoop was in their sights? Hey, boss.
Maybe it was a good one.
Hey, boss, I've managed to hack into the voicemails of the grieving family of a dead war hero. Nice work, Bernstein and Woodward. What have they been saying? Well, they're quite upset about it. Hold the front page! Jeff, you're going to have to redraw that cartoon. This changes everything. And can we replace the word delighted with devastated in the front page headline? It defies any kind of human comprehension, John. And it's huge upheaval in the British tabloid press. Now, upheaval in the British tabloid press usually just means a photograph of a particularly well-endowed model in a well-constructed bra. But not this week. Because, as I said, the biggest-selling newspaper title in the British newsosphere, the News of the World, the rogue, distant third cousin of this esteemed audio publication itself, has been taken round the back of the smoking shed here in Wapping and shot. The News of the World has, of course, through its history, been known for its crusading investigative journalism and fearless desire to expose corruption, breasts, wrongdoing, tits, hypocrisy, waps, drug-taking hooters, criminality, norks, perversion, melons, people who fail to keep it in their trousers, dugs, underpants and boobs. And they have had pretty major successes in all of those categories, I guess. But I think with the current slew of allegations, it is fair to say that the nation and probably the wider world has agreed that the News of the World had gone one step too far, and that one step was over the edge of a f***ing massive and already crumbling cliff. It did not just cross the line, John. It drove through the line in a high-speed tank, reversed back over the line, picked it up, taped the line back together, headbutted it, released the line into the woods, ran after it, kidnapped it, chained it to a radiator in its dungeon, fed it half a slice of stale bread and a glass of water every day, and whacked the line round the kneecaps with a baseball bat every morning before releasing it and saying, "Right, line, I never want to see you anywhere near one of my articles again, comprendo." So the Murdochs did act decisively and quickly. They didn't just pull the plug on the publication. They wrapped the chain that the plug was on around the News of the World's neck and kept pulling it until the twitching stopped, which was pretty rapidly. And thus, a slice of British journalistic history was brought to a splutteringly rapid end. And what had happened was the advertisers, who had previously thought that pointlessly and illegally hacking celebrities and politicians' phones was absolutely fine, became appalled by the latest allegations and were pulling out in droves like a Catholic orgy. And the first, it's been going, as you say, since 1843, and in fact they've printed the first edition in today's final edition. Back in 1843, it features Etcherazzi drawings of pioneering computer hottie Ada Lovelace doing some maths, an unflattering watercolour showing how Queen Victoria was struggling to regain her figure after giving birth to her third child in April of that year, allegations that Charles Dickens had written his current smash hit novel Martin Chuzzlewit using stolen quills, another etching of poetess Elizabeth Barrett Browning showing off her new tattoo in a bikini on the beach, plus suggestions that Foreign Secretary Lord Aberdeen might be having an affair with an unnamed Prussian princess, and tokens for a free dose of cholera. That's all there for 1843. It's going to leave a big hole in public life in Britain, John. I was looking at the website on Friday, still reeling from the knowledge that never again would I be able to go into a newsagent's shop on Sunday and not buy the News of the World. And I thought, who is going to step into the breach, John? Who will be brave enough
Yep.
to keep the world informed about who is sleeping with former pop star Kerry Katona. Someone is going to have to step into the breach, John. Someone
It's tough.
is going to have to be brave.
There is a chasm there.
So, I guess, they seem understandably annoyed, the current staff of the News of the World, most of whom were not around at the time of these appalling acts that have been alleged were happening. But the problem is that the whole of journalism has been dragged through the mud. The stories have emerged of phone hacking, alleged illegal payments to police officers and general grubbiness. It's become clear that in the world of tabloid journalism, ethics were just a county that you had to drive through on the way to pap a celebrity in a rehab centre in Suffolk. Morals were just what you needed when trying to play Welsh Scrabble. Morals. Values were just the female sheep that used to be tended on the TV kid show Blue Peter by the famous presenter Valerie Singleton. Value. Decency was how a travel agent might describe the Adriatic. Decency, not one of the all-time greats in my book, but does a job for you year in, year out. Integrity, that was just a handy description of film director Mike Leigh. He's integrity. And good behaviour is something that you would say whilst trying to butter up a champion apiarist in order to get them to tell you all the sordid gossip on who the queen bee had been shagging. Good behive, yeah. Good behive, yep. I'm done on that lot. I'm done. I think that was satirically and artistically valid, John.
Will this change journalism for the better? Well, I'm not sure that will definitely happen. Here's an example of that. Ex-editor Rebecca Brooks, who was in charge during some of the alleged hacking at News of the World, gave a secret address to staff supporting them. Later that day, during a story on the evils of News of the World engaging in non-permitted recordings, a BBC news anchor said on TV, "We've obtained a secret recording that was made of Rebecca Brooks speaking to her staff in Wapping earlier today. I should warn you, it isn't great quality, it was done secretly, but let's listen to it." So, the BBC did a story about how phone tapping was illegal, and then got an illegally recorded speech taped on someone's phone and played it. I think the press has really decided to change its behaviour for good this time, Andy.
So, tabloid journalism is going to have to try and haul itself back up into the gutter. I guess that's its initial starting point. Maybe politicians will realise they don't have to butter up the press like a Christmas crumpet in order to persuade the tiny minority of voters they need to persuade in this country that they are not irretrievably incompetent. And also, will the newspaper reading public finally sit up and think, hang on, maybe it doesn't matter if Gwyneth Paltrow has been photographed reading a book about lizards. Maybe I can live without that information. But another angle on this is that the Prime Minister David Cameron's former press secretary Andy Coulson was arrested and released on bail on Friday. And as discussed on the Bugle previously, the Prime Minister's decision to hire an ex-News of the World editor as his media man looked very much like the decision of a man who wanted his media man to be prepared to do absolutely f***ing anything. So Cameron and Coulson pranced into number 10 on the back of not losing the election as badly as anyone else. And Coulson then had to resign under the pressure of the phone hacking story. And Cameron's judgment has been made to look dodgier than a famous American automobile brand now owned by Chrysler Group, and/or dodgier than a former centre for the Leicester, England and British Lions rugby teams in the early 1980s. Delete as you see fit, or replace it with your own version.